Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jamilia. I am a spiritual coach for empaths, sensitive souls, and creatives. And this channel is all about offering you tips and guidance to help you to overcome past traumas, to own your authenticity, and to level up and align with your inevitable success, right? So if you haven't yet subscribed and you like the sound of what this channel is all about, make sure to go ahead and subscribe before we get into this video. So today we're going to talk about spiritual awakening. And if you have experienced a spiritual awakening, or if you have heard of somebody who's experienced a spiritual awakening, you will probably know that spiritual awakenings are not very smooth sailing, okay? So spiritual awakenings are known to be very emotionally intense, very kind of unraveling. And if you have been through your own spiritual awakening, you will know that it's kind of a matter of there being light at the end of the tunnel, right? So you may go through a lot of internal struggle, a lot of emotional processing before feeling that alignment that comes and that new awakening in consciousness that comes at the end of the spiritual awakening. So let's firstly look at the actual word itself, right? So spiritual awakening, what is that? Well, spiritual, we are all spiritual beings. So that spiritual actually refers to you as you are, okay? I don't really believe that there is such a thing as going from being non-spiritual to being spiritual, because we're all spiritual, right? We're all spiritual beings, and we're all equal in that sense. But the awakening part refers to that awakening in consciousness, and that's really becoming conscious of the fact that you are a spiritual being, right? It's becoming conscious of your truth, the truth of who you are, what you are, why you're here, and how you are connected to everything, right? Spiritually and energetically. So another point I want to mention around this topic is that some of us may think that, we go through one or two or three spiritual awakenings in our whole life, like it's these really specific kind of processes that happen a couple times in our life, right? Or we just experience one and all of a sudden we're like awakened and conscious of different things or things that we hadn't been conscious of before. But the truth is, we are constantly actually going through spiritual awakening. But some of this process may be more intense or more significant or more consciously happening, right? But actually, as human beings, it's actually our purpose to awaken spiritually, to awaken our consciousness. So we're actually constantly going through this awakening of consciousness. Some faster than others, some more significantly than others, but we're all spiritually awakening at all times, okay? So let's talk about what is actually happening during this process of spiritual awakening. This process of spiritual awakening, right, it first needs to occur through receiving some sort of education. So through receiving education or educating ourselves, we are becoming more knowledgeable, right? And specifically some form of education that is going to teach us about life, about ourselves, about how we're all connected, or about our purpose, right? Our reason for being here. That is why if you read self-development books, if you are reading mindfulness books, if you're into that stuff naturally, you're probably going to experience like an accelerated kind of accelerated spiritual awakening, right? You might have many moments where you feel like you're going through this massive awakening in consciousness and where the ball just drops and you're like, oh, like this is what this means. This is why I've been going through this. This is my purpose. If you're not educating yourself consciously, you could also become educated through a near-death experience. And that's when we hear of people who have had these significant life events happen and afterwards all of a sudden they're like changed or they're awakened or they're really spiritual. and they understand the meaning of life, where their personality completely changes. And this is subconscious. This is not conscious education, but still you're being educated by a lesson in life, right? So you're receiving knowledge through that life event. And these unplanned circumstances that educate us versus planned education, aka reading or watching educational videos or self-development videos, they're really no different in terms of the process that we go through to gain this higher awareness and consciousness, okay? So the first thing that occurs during spiritual awakening is, like I just mentioned, we need to be educated in some way, okay? So we consume education, and through this education, we become more knowledgeable, okay? We receive knowledge on some aspect of our reason for being, or some aspect or truth about who we are, what is our essence, okay? Our soul purpose, our soul reason for being here. So with this knowledge, we receive this truth, okay? And whenever we receive this truth, this all happens in the conscious mind. So it all needs to happen in the conscious mind first. And whenever we receive this information in the conscious mind, it then goes into the subconscious mind, okay? When you're no longer thinking about it, when you're no longer trying to make sense of it, that's when the real processing begins. Because that's when you actually send the information into your subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind is really that part of yourself that stores all the information you've ever consumed. And this might not be things that you remember. You know, the subconscious mind is the place that holds the things that don't come up in your conscious memory, but it all exists there. And in the subconscious mind, there are links created between, for example, the first time you seen a rose, right? You will have a subconscious association based on the first experience you had of seeing a rose. So if your mom gave you this rose and you smelt it and it was beautiful and it was a beautiful day and you had a really good relationship with your mom, your association of a rose is going to be, you know, beautiful. It's going to be associated with that emotion that you felt the first time that you seen a rose. And similarly goes for if you had a negative experience. Anything associated with that negative experience is going to be stored in that subconscious mind, and that's how we create links and associations between our reality and our stored memory. Basically, even if it's not consciously happening, it's still all there in the subconscious mind. So whenever we consume education and gain knowledge about the meaning of our essence or our purpose for being here, this spiritual knowledge, right? This goes into the subconscious mind, and any knowledge that previously existed in the subconscious mind about why we're here, who we are, what our essence is, that new information will challenge the old information, okay? And whenever the old information in the subconscious mind is challenged, what happens is emotions that were trapped from our past, right? Emotions that were trapped based on our understanding of the events that have occurred in our lives, right? If at the time the knowledge that we had in the subconscious mind didn't allow us to process emotions, right? We couldn't understand them. For example, forgiveness, right? If somebody really hurt us and we didn't have the knowledge in our subconscious mind to forgive that person, the understanding of, you know, for example, that person's own struggles, right? If we didn't have the knowledge or the perspective to see it from that point of view, we can harbor that hatred or resentment towards that person, right? And that's all based on the information that the subconscious mind holds surrounding that incident that occurred. Whenever you receive this new information in the subconscious mind, sometimes this information is enough to let you process emotions that have been trapped for years, sometimes for a lifetime. And whenever you suddenly have the information and the understanding in the subconscious mind to release trapped emotions, right? This is when we can talk about spiritual awakening being super uncomfortable, a lot of past emotions, a lot of trapped and suppressed emotions coming to the surface, right? The emotional shit show, so to say. This is when that comes into play, right? We have this new information in the subconscious mind that gives us this new ability, new understanding, new depth of understanding around circumstances that have occurred in our lives. And with that, we are able to then start processing these trapped emotions. We're suddenly able to start forgiving that person who hurt us in the past that we couldn't forgive before. And whenever this occurs, right, all these trapped emotions start coming to the surface to be processed. And there you have it. You're faced with this emotional shitstorm, right? So that is when we experience this really overwhelming phase of spiritual awakening. And whenever we're stepping into new realities, whenever we're manifesting, right, and we're stepping into this higher version of ourselves, we're letting go of the past, we have received or consumed some information that allows us to do that, allows us to step away, step forward from our past, right? But we first need to process all them unprocessed emotions that we didn't have the information to process before. So this is when we experience this emotional detox, and that is super uncomfortable. That can last for weeks. You will be, super emotional. You might be extremely exhausted, have severe anxiety, have flashbacks to really difficult times in your life. And guys, I recently went through this. Like, I've been going through a spiritual awakening the past 2 weeks. And in order to get to the next step of where I'm trying to get to, I have to process these trapped emotions from past events, right, that have been holding me back. And with that, letting go of limiting beliefs that have been kind of ruling me or being my storyline. So whenever you are stepping up and suddenly you're faced with this emotional shit show, right? And you're having to process all these emotions, and you feel, whenever you're in it, you really feel like you have stepped 20 steps back. You're like, I thought I had passed this, right? I thought I had overcome this, because your conscious mind has, right? But we can't forget about the mind body soul connection. If your conscious mind, right, your mind is made up of the subconscious and the conscious. So the mind is 2 parts. If your conscious mind has overcome them past traumas, the body and soul have to catch up. So they have to be in harmony with that raise in energy frequency. And that is when this awakening in consciousness really takes place on a holistic level, right? Okay, so, and then the cycle really continues. Then you will receive more information, more understanding. And the more you receive, the more that you'll go through these rapid processing cycles, okay? The more that you will experience these phases of emotional turbulence, I'll call them. So this emotional disruption. So if you feel like you're on your path, right, and you're awakening and you're carrying out your purpose, you're up leveling, you're consciously working on manifesting the life that you want, it's natural and it's all part of the process to experience these moments of anxiety, these phases of emotional disruption and not understanding and feeling like you're going backwards. But if you understand on a spiritual level what's actually going on, you're actually, the more that you experience these cycles, the faster that you experience them, the quicker that you are going through this awakening process. So if you are an empath, if you are a sensitive soul, you're creative, and you've been experiencing like these intense phases of emotional instability or flashbacks, or just feeling completely overwhelmed, but then you feel on the other hand like you've been, accelerating, don't be surprised about this. This is all part of your spiritual awakening. This is all part of your spiritual ascension, right? Your soul is ascending into this knowledge of truth about yourself. You're starting to connect with the oneness of your soul, and you're really starting to understand the essence of who you are. So guys, if you've been experiencing a spiritual awakening, or you can relate to, this process, and you've been feeling super emotional, you've been feeling super overwhelmed on your journey of spiritual awakening, let me know your experience in the comments below, and let me know if this video resonates with you, right? I would love to hear what you have to say. And for those of you who are on your journey of healing, of empowerment, and who are ready to really overcome those past traumas, step into your authenticity, and claim your success, right? To really align with that higher version of yourself. I currently have one-on-one coaching spots available. If you're interested, just send me an email and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'll leave my email address in the description below, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. So guys, that is it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure to do so. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!